Glenn Ignazio in, retired Air Force Special Operations pilot, military analyst these days. Glenn, always good to have you on. On this, you know, there's drills a lot. This one, you know, they're surrounded the whole island, I suppose. What should we just ignore it? Should we look at it? I mean, how do you look at when you see things like this and they pop up like they did today?
Well, hey, good to see you. And yeah, it's rather significant. I mean, we're talking about, more than 19 ships, a carrier
Yeah.
group, 71 aircraft. And we can't ever, and they shouldn't ever downgrade this and make it casual. I think that's one of the biggest things. And that's part of the art of deception on this. As soon as they think it's casual, that's when something really happens. And that's what they're trying to do is literally they're making this so common that when you start letting your guard down, that's when an action will actually be carried out. It's a dangerous time.
All right, let's talk about it from a couple of different angles here. First, this is what the White House said about it at the briefing. Caroline Levitt, watch.
The president is emphasizing the importance of maintaining peace in the Taiwan Strait, encouraging the peaceful resolution of these cross-strait issues, reiterating our opposition to any unilateral attempts to change the status quo by force or coercion.
So that speaks to how you have to handle China, or you're supposed to in many ways, because you see what she was doing there, reading clearly. And language matters in many cases diplomatically with China. So a lot of times she ad-libs her answers in that briefing. That wasn't ad-lib. But the question, Glenn, has been, what would the Trump administration do? How would the president himself react if Taiwan was invaded by China? Do you have a thought on that, or what his thought process might be?
Well, it's interesting because right now, really, the biggest defense partner we have right there is Japan. And the Taiwanese Strait is important because that's where Australia and ourselves are going through. It's only 80 miles. So by law, we're still supplying Taiwan with weapons and so forth. And this reaction is really from Hegseth traveling to the Asia-Pac area. But as far as what Trump would do, I think he would support the weapons as he has to by law. But at the same time, it would be to keep the straits and everything open. So I think he would have to take action on that. Going directly to the defense of Taiwan, I would recommend. But again, it's one of the things I think he would focus on, keeping the safe of navigation for the straits. And that's a pretty questionable thing that we would have to do in that area.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think it's ever been made. I mean, it's purposely, as we say, ambiguous in general. But like with Trump, I don't know that we know exactly what he would do. You mentioned Hegseth being in Asia and his meeting with the Japanese defense minister. Here's part of what he said, the defense secretary.
Alliance has never been stronger. And President Trump has also been clear on what a great relationship we have with Japan. It is a cornerstone of peace and security in the Indo-Pacific. I look forward to discussing the need for credible deterrence in this region, including across the Taiwan Strait. And Japan is our indispensable partner in deterring communist Chinese military aggression.
The only thing, I guess, Glenn, that I would say about that, talking about Japan being an indispensable partner, we've been talking so much about these tariffs and the trade war. It was interesting this week to see reports that China is supposedly coordinating with Japan, as well as South Korea, on its response on trade. So you think about that, could be one of the unintended consequences of all this on the tariff side. You definitely don't want to drive China closer together with our allies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the trade that they were talking about was things from semiconductors, getting those raw materials from China to Japan and Korea. And so from that, and because of the tariffs, I could see why they're doing that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, from South Korea and Japan are our biggest partners. If anything was to happen in Taiwan Straits where the U.S. responded, you pretty much would have to launch that out of Japan and the naval forces that would be the area, and then Australia. So, I mean, those are really the key points for that. So Japan is the biggest partner in that area. And as we said, China is ratcheting up from Hegseth's trip. The last time they did this was from Pelosi. So everything going on there, dynamics, economic is one thing. I understand why they're doing that, Japan and Korea, but at the same time, on the warfare front, they're going to be our biggest allies if anything kicks off in that area.
You're right. That was the Pelosi trip to Taiwan. All right, Glenn, thanks as always. Glenn Ignazio with us. Now, thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.